Discover the incredible truth. The judge's shocking reaction when my hidden identity was revealed. Sarah Thompson's heart drummed against her ribcage as she slipped through the courthouse doors, a stark contrast to her usual role as a waitress where customers seldom expected more than coffee. Today the stakes were painfully high. Clutching the crumpled letter that had upended her life, she swallowed hard. It bore the name of a man she had relegated to shadows. Her estranged father, despite his wealth and title, he remained a stranger who once abandoned her mother. Could she possibly stand here, among these indifferent faces, ready to fight for what should have never belonged to her? The whispers swirled around her, thick like soup, adding an extra layer of heaviness to her already burdened shoulders. Look at her, they seemed to say, eyes flitting over her worn-out clothes, stained from hours of scrubbing floors and serving tables. Doubts crept in like unwelcome guests at a party. Did she truly have the right to claim the inheritance of a man who had turned his back on her before she could form a memory? Sarah's history danced before her eyes, a painful tribute to her mother's struggles, reminding her of the events that had closed the door on their hopeful dreams. She took a deep breath, releasing a shaky exhale as visions of her daughter, Mia, danced in her mind. How could she explain to Mia that she, too, deserved better? They often shared laughter over dinner cooked with love rather than ingredients, creating a ragtag family rather than settling for a single mother and a child. But could this inheritance really be the key to a brighter path? Or was it a false promise wrapped in her father's shame? Familiar tension spread through her body as she crossed in front of the judge's bench. He looked down at her with eyes that held judgment but also something more, perhaps recognition. Discomfort pooled at the base of her throat, mixing with irritation. She remembered the day her mother had brought her to court, her voice trembling as she begged for justice that never came. Anguish flashed through Sarah as she confronted the specter of her past, realizing what was at stake here: not just a sum of money but the dignity of her and Mia's existence. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The proceedings began and Sarah's palms became clammy. She could feel their eyes, the weight of her lowly upbringing weighing heavily on her. Steeling herself against the scrutiny, she took the stand, only for a seismic undercurrent of fear to rattle her resolve. The truth about her father was no longer only about money. It was a confrontation with everything she had built while carrying the scars of abandonment. She longed to challenge her reality, to render the gavel that once silenced her mother powerless against her. Would her resolve crumble beneath the collective judgment of the town, or could she turn this challenge into triumph? As the judge prepared to speak, the air grew electric, and Sarah felt every muscle in her body tense. Did he recognize her? Would he reveal the truth they all feared to voice? The crowd held its breath, knowing the weight of her hidden lineage now threatened to ripple through their comfortable facades. What awaited her after this moment of revelation? The silence deepened, an abyss swallowing any chance to retreat as uncertainty, anticipation, and fear coiled tightly around her heart. Sarah could hardly process the noise around her. It was as if the world had faded to a distant hum while her heart raced audibly in her ears. The judge's gaze, piercing, analyzing, felt rooted in the marrow of her bones. What did he see? A daughter seeking reconciliation or just a reckless woman chasing wealth? He cleared his throat, and in that moment, she felt time stretch and bend like a thin wire ready to snap. "Ms. Thompson," he said, each word tumbling heavily into the silence, "are you prepared to state your claim?" The question ignited a fire within her. In this moment she recognized the power of her voice. No longer just a waitress serving coffee and small talk, she was a force standing against a tidal wave spawned by her father's choices. With her heart in her throat, she nodded, willing her trembling hands to find strength as she turned to face the audience. "I am Sarah Thompson," she began, her voice steady though her pulse raced. "I stand here not just to claim what may or may not be mine by blood, but to claim my right to be heard." The murmurs grew louder. It was as if she had thrown a stone into a still pond, ripples spreading wide. Uncertainty clashed with realization as she continued, her mind racing through the memories of long nights spent with her mother, her sacrifices, her dreams, a reminder that she carried the weight of both their histories. This inheritance is not just a matter of money. It represents everything my mother fought for, a chance to provide a better life. My past, although marred with pain, is woven into the fabric of who I am today, and I refuse to let it be silenced any longer. She explained everything: the struggles, the feelings of abandonment, the bittersweet legacy of a father she'd never known. Each sentence felt like a revelation, and with each revealing word her confidence swelled. Her experiences were her armor, and she wielded them passionately. The crowd simmered with surprise, and some faces softened as they listened to her narrative unfold. Yet, as her story poured forth, a shadow crept into the corners of her mind. What if they still judged her? Did they see her as a usurper? Did they worry about her motives? She could sense a shared skepticism lingering, like smoke that refused to dissipate. But amidst the trepidation, a decision crystallized. She would transform this skepticism into fuel. As she took a breath, drawing strength from her daughter's smiling face in her mind, she realized the stakes were no longer tethered solely to her father's name or wealth. What she sought wasn't just inheritance. It was validation of her existence, of her right to decide what her future would hold. With newfound determination, Sarah faced the judge once more. I do not know what my father wished for me, but I know what I wish for my daughter. To live free of abandonment, to fight for her voice, and to carve out a place where she belongs. This is not merely about a name. This is about dignity. A low murmur of acknowledgement rippled through the crowd. All eyes were now on her, and she finally felt seen. But as she stepped down from the stand, a familiar figure subtly emerged from the crowd, an unexpected presence she had not envisioned. The tension in the room shifted as she recognized the steely gaze of her father's attorney, a woman armed with the kind of confidence that matched her own newfound resolve. The time had come to face the truth, Sarah thought, running her fingers nervously over the letter in her pocket. What other secrets lay buried in this unfolding story? And what would she uncover about her father that could change everything? The room still buzzed with murmurs, but for Sarah, everything outside of her own thoughts faded, drowned out by the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could feel the weight of the attorney's gaze, sharp and unyielding, like a spotlight illuminating the parts of her that felt hidden even to herself. The woman had a reputation, quick-minded and ruthless. She was an expert in intimidation. As she approached, her graceful stride belied an undercurrent of menace. You spoke well, Miss Thompson, the attorney said, her voice rich with feigned admiration. But declarations mean little without facts. Are you prepared for what you may unearth? A chill crept down Sarah's spine, her heart quickening once more. This was at the pivot point between her past and the reality she desperately wanted to forge. But the more she considered her response, the more a fire ignited within her. She was standing in a courtroom, not just physically but metaphorically, ready to confront every lie, every mystery woven into the narrative of her family. Isn't that the point? She responded, her voice imbued with defiance. The truth, however unpleasant, is what I'm seeking. You'd be surprised how potent that can be. The attorney narrowed her eyes, a flicker of something unreadable dancing across her face. Was it recognition or perhaps a hint of respect? Regardless, Sarah felt emboldened, even as the stakes climbed anew. She had always been a passive player in her story, overshadowed by the expectations of others. Now she was not merely fighting for her claim but for a voice that echoed beyond the confines of her lineage. In the days that followed, each moment was laden with anticipation. The judge's potential ruling loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Driven by an urgency to uncover the truth about her father, she began combing through old documents and letters left behind. Each painstaking discovery chipped away at her fear, exposing layers of a life she had never truly understood. She uncovered articles, acquaintances of her father, and even snatches of conversations from her mother that had always felt incomplete. One afternoon, sifting through a box of his personal effects in the attic, Sarah stumbled across a collection of handwritten notes. The fragile paper carried remnants of her father's essence. Philosophies, regrets, and a poignant letter addressed to her, a letter that had never reached her. It revealed insights into his struggles, his aspirations, and an unexpected love for her that she had never fathomed. But instead of meaningful connections, It brought forth a tempest of unresolved feelings. She realized he was an imperfect man, one who had made choices that led to one person's gain while devastating others. A part of her felt a spark of compassion, conflicting violently with the resentment years of abandonment had fueled. Emerging from that discovery, she confronted a truth that twisted her insides. Was she destined to become another flawed piece in her father's legacy, or could she carve her own path? The rawness of that question ignited a desperate urgency in her. As she wrestled with these revelations, Sarah recognized a burgeoning strength rising within her, an unshakable resolve to redefine her narrative not just through the inheritance of wealth, but by the pursuit of authenticity and her family's elusive truth. The day came for the court hearing, and as she walked into the chamber, her heart pounded with both fear and determination. She could hear snippets of conversation echoing around her. Skepticism, disbelief. But a new fire burned bright within her, a refusal to retreat. Right before she took her seat, the judge's face turned toward her, searching. The moment felt charged, pregnant with potential. What he was about to reveal could shatter her expectations or solidify her stance. And it was in that heartbeat of silence before everything unfolded. Sarah vowed to confront whatever truth emerged. She was on the cusp of claiming not just an inheritance, but the right to forge her identity and legacy. But just as she sat down, the courtroom's doors swung open, and a new figure stepped in, a face she recognized yet never expected. Her eyes widened, heart racing anew. Could this person hold the key to everything she had unearthed? Or would they threaten to unravel it all? Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The figure pushing through the courtroom doors was no stranger. It was her estranged brother, Lucas, a person she thought long gone from her life. Years of silence hung between them like the specter of a forgotten past, but now his presence electrified the air around her. She studied his expression, searching for signs of how he felt after all this time. Was there anger simmering beneath his composed facade? Or perhaps relief mingled with sorrow? That uncertainty ignited a turmoil within her that made it difficult to concentrate on anything else. The attorney, noticing the shift in the atmosphere, raised an eyebrow and strolled over to Lucas, interrogating him with her gaze, as if sizing up yet another pawn in the unfolding drama. Suddenly, Sarah's mind raced, a rapid-fire analysis of all she had learned and the implications of Lucas's sudden reappearance. What did he know about their father? About the estate? About her? But as the attorney began questioning him, she realized he was not there to support their father's legacy, but to confront it. Lucas's voice, steady but laced with hidden tension, cut through her thoughts. "I'm here to set the record straight," he stated, his eyes locking with Sarah's, igniting a flicker of connection that brought both warmth and confusion. The judge, sensing the rising commotion, tapped his gavel to regain control of the courtroom. The attention shifted back to Sarah. Would she allow her brother's testimony into this already complex narrative? "Lucas," Sarah whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. Instinctively, she felt both a pull toward him and a resistance. In confronting her father's history, was she also ready to reckon with her brother's role in it? He took a step forward, undeterred. "You don't even know the half of it, Sarah. There are secrets that could change everything." His declaration hung in the air, laden with both hope and dread. She could see her attorney preparing to challenge him, her eyebrow raised sharply. Would the courtroom allow this new variable into the mix? Or did it risk fracturing their precarious balance? Sarah felt a surge of indignation. "What do you mean? What secrets?" Her voice held an edge of desperation. She needed clarity as much as she needed to confront her past. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribcage as Lucas searched for the right words, his vulnerability juxtaposed with the authority of the moment. "It's not just about inheritance or family names. There are debts of loyalty and betrayal stretching far beyond what you know." With each passing second, the atmosphere thickened, her internal conflict mirroring the tension in the room. A choice loomed before her: to embrace what Lucas revealed, which might unravel everything she thought she understood about her past, or to shut him down and risk losing a piece of her identity irrevocably. Lucas leaned closer, urgency infused in his tone. "We need to talk. Not just here. There's more you need to know. About Dad, about us." The room had transformed. It was no longer just a fight for an inheritance. It had shifted to a reckoning of identities, of long-buried truths brought to light. The stakes were elevating beyond her control before Sarah could gather her resolve. The judge cleared his throat, attention shifting back as he prepared to address the court. The weight of his gavel struck like a hammer, demanding silence, but Sarah's mind raced. Could she trust Lucas? Could confronting these secrets actually lead her to the authenticity she so desperately sought? Then, just before the judge spoke, Lucy's words echoed in her mind, driving her forward. The truth, however unpleasant, is what I'm seeking. As her brother stepped back, Sarah realized the moment of truth was at hand, not just for her father's legacy but for her own. Would she seize the opportunity to uncover the truths that had been kept hidden for so long? The room turned into a battlefield of emotions, and Sarah felt like a soldier on the front lines of her own life, ready to expose the vulnerability of her past while striving to emerge as the architect of her future. With steely resolve, she steeled herself for the revelations to come. In that split second before the court proceedings resumed, she knew she was on the brink of a confrontation, one that held the potential to either liberate her or plunge her deeper into the chaos surrounding her family's hidden truths. Could she find the strength within herself to unearth what lay buried? Or would the uncovering of those truths shatter everything she hoped to build? The gavel fell, echoing in the tense silence of the courtroom as Sarah's heart raced. The judge's stern gaze searched the room, lingering briefly on Lucas before shifting to Sarah. The weight of his impending words felt like a stone lodged in her chest. She steadied herself, her resolve hardening within. The attorney turned to her with a subtle nod, as if to say that the choice now rested on Sarah. Would she allow Lucas to take the stand and open a floodgate of family secrets? The stakes had escalated from mere inheritance battles to something immeasurably personal. Sarah glanced at Lucas, taking in the familiar yet foreign contours of his face. Memories of their shared childhood flickered in her mind, laughter by the river, whispers of dreams under the blanket of stars. Yet, those fond recollections were overshadowed by years of estrangement. What had transpired in that chasm of silence to bring him here today? Your Honor, she finally found her voice unexpectedly steady. I wish to hear what my brother has to say. The decision bared itself, daunting and exhilarating, and it felt as if she had taken the first steps into uncharted territory. The judge nodded slowly, allowing Lucas to take the stand as her attorney exchanged a look of concern with Sarah. This wasn't just a courtroom battle. It was a pivotal moment in her life. The idea of revealing long-buried truths made her pulse quicken. Yet curiosity about the secrets stirred an intense yearning within her. Tell us what you know, Lucas, the attorney prompted, leaning forward, the tension palpable. With everything that has happened, Sarah needs to know who our father really was, he started. His voice unwavering though tinted with emotion. The reasons behind his choices, the darkness that shadowed our family, it all connects. What darkness? Sarah interjected, emboldened despite the tremor in her core. What are you talking about? You think it's just about money? The estate? It's so much deeper. Lucas steadied himself, searching for the right way to approach the truth. When Dad passed, it wasn't merely a loss of a figurehead. There were debts, divisions beyond emotional. There's a reality about his life that he kept hidden, even from us. The courtroom held its breath as Lucas spoke. Each revelation tugged harder at Sarah's heart, unlocking locked doors of confusion and resentment. Debts? The word slipped from her lips, laced with disbelief. You mean financial debts? No, not just that. Lucas shook his head, determination pouring from him. These are personal debts, relationships, promises broken. He betrayed people and it spirals. You've been kept in the dark. It's time to step into the light. As he articulated his thoughts, Sarah felt a strange mix of emotions bubble to the surface. Anger, sadness, part of her longing to dig deeper. He was offering her a connection, a chance to truly understand the man who had, in essence, shaped their lives with his absence. The anger toward her father flared, but it was quickly eclipsed by a sense of duty to her own understanding. This wasn't merely about familial loyalty, it was about claiming her identity. The truth could be her liberation. What if this truth changes everything? What if it destroys me? She whispered, the fear swelling inside her. Or it could set you free, Lucas countered. His gaze bore into her, urging her to grasp the weight of his words. His sincerity stirred something primordial within her, a flicker of trust igniting despite years of pain. Lucas might have wandered away, but he was back now, and she couldn't ignore the potential for resolution. "I have to know," she asserted boldly, her heart racing against her ribs. Each beat became a war drum propelling her forward into the unknown. "What are those secrets, Lucas?" The atmosphere shifted, becoming charged with possibility. The path before her was precarious and intertwined with her brother's revelations, but she was resolute. The journey to uncover the truth would demand every bit of her strength, but this was her chance to redefine not only her inheritance but her identity. As the eyes of the courtroom returned to Lucas, it felt like an impending storm, one that had the power to reshape the landscape of her family's history. Would she be prepared for whatever was about to emerge from the shadows? And thus, the moment before the next revelation loomed a challenge of her past against the strength of her emerging self. Would the storm herald clarity or further chaos? The air thickened with tension as Lucas prepared to respond, the weight of his words nearly palpable. "Sarah," he began, his voice steadier now, "our father lived a double life. The man you thought he was, it's not who he truly was. He wasn't just a man with debts. He was entangled with people who wanted something from him. They weren't just seeking money, they sought secrets." Sarah felt her breath hitch, the intensity of Lucas's gaze anchoring her to the moment. The truth seemed to stretch before her, dark and tangled as the roots of an ancient tree. Who was this man that she had barely known? The questions piled high, each one sharper than the last. What secrets? The tremor in her voice surprised her, a mix of urgency and an unfathomable need to understand. "About his past, his relationships, things he buried for our sake," Lucas explained. "He was involved with some dangerous people. I didn't want to believe it either, but I found documents, names, things he swore he would never let us discover." The courtroom faded into the background as Sarah focused solely on Lucas. This revelation was the uncharted territory she had feared yet craved. The girl who had once been awed by the stars and riverbank whispers was standing at the edge of a vast chasm, each heartbeat echoing the reality of her inheritance. She wasn't merely stepping forward into the light, but into an abyss rich with uncertainty and dread. "Why are you telling me this now?" she pressed, trying to reconcile her childhood memories of laughter with the idea of betrayal. A flicker of pain crossed Lucas's features, making him seem vulnerable. "Because it's too late for him to fix it, and it's time for us to confront the legacy he left behind. We can't live in a shadow anymore, Sarah." "You mean you want me to dig through the remains of his life?" The attorney leaned in, intervening with caution. "This isn't just about the inheritance anymore. If there's more to this, it could impact your future, your choices, your identity. You must decide how much of this family history you want to inherit." A gust of fear washed over Sarah, yet laced within it was a burgeoning courage. She had spent years denying the complexities of her family, choosing instead to carve her own path. This was an opportunity not simply to embrace her past, but to redefine her future. "Let us start from the beginning, Lucas. What names were in those documents?" Each syllable felt like a promise to herself, a commitment to strip away layers of deception. She could feel the tightness in her chest loosening as she stepped into her newfound role as an investigator of truth. As Lucas began to reveal the names and connections, vivid visions of her father's life flickered like film clips in her mind, intertwined with visions of her own choices and dreams. The courtroom faded, the images of hidden truths molding into anything but what she had once envisioned as family. The discussion shifted from secrecy to revelation, and with each detail Lucas provided, a sense of clarity emerged. With each name came a sliver of understanding, another piece of the tapestry of their father's life unraveling right before her. It demanded attention, demanded action. Yet just as the last name lingered in the air, Sarah felt a pull within her. And what if this leads us to people who don't want to be found? What if they come after us? This time her voice trembled not with fear but anticipation. "You and I will protect each other," Lucas asserted, his tone firm but filled with a tenderness she had long forgotten. "And in this pursuit we might discover more about ourselves than either of us expected." The stakes had transformed, no longer just about inheritance, but exploring who they were against the backdrop of their father's hidden life. This adventure was about personal growth, and despite the uncertainty that loomed ahead, Sarah felt herself receding from the shadows, stepping into the possibility for liberation. And thus, as Lucas opened the door to a plethora of secrets hidden in their past, Sarah pondered one final question. What if uncovering The truth about their father led them to a truth about themselves that they had never dared to confront. The possibility lingered, captivating and daunting, as the quest for self-discovery began in earnest. As the conversation unfolded in the small sterile room, Sarah felt a mixture of dread and excitement coursing through her veins. Lucas had peeled back layers of lies, exposing not just the man their father had hidden from them, but also the shadows that had constrained their lives. The walls felt as if they were closing in, yet a part of her longed to explore the truths lurking just beyond their reach. "Then what's our first step?" she asked, anchoring herself in the moment. Lucas glanced at the documents he spread across the wooden table, their edges ragged like the memories they contained. "We need to trace the names I found. Each one could lead us to people who knew him, the ones who might understand the secrets he kept." His eyes gleamed with determination, igniting something deep within her. Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "What if we start with that name you mentioned, the contact from the financial records?" "Marcus Laird," Lucas replied, the name lingering in the air like a ghost. "He was tied to several of Dad's dealings, mostly investments, but people like him never stick to the straight and narrow. We should dig into his background." As they formulated a plan, Sarah felt invigorated by taking control of her destiny. The investigator in her was awakening, ready to dissect their father's life like a puzzle waiting to be solved. She stood up and began pacing the small room, filled with a newfound sense of agency. What if he knows where the debts originated? Maybe it's not just about the family legacy, but about unearthing Dad's choices that put us at risk, she said. The realization struck her starkly. Their father was not merely a victim in this drama but a player, willingly ensnared by ambition or desperation. "Exactly," Lucas encouraged, "but let us be careful. Finding Laird could put us in contact with some unsavory characters. We'll need to plan our approach." Listening to Lucas made Sarah aware of her own inexperience, yet she felt an unfamiliar resolve settle in. This was her chance to prove herself not just to Lucas but to herself. The weight of potential danger only fueled her resolve. Each name uncovered promise, not just danger. It promised growth and the harsh truths of their father's past. Over the next few days their search took a relentless pace. They pieced together information. Marcus Laird had a reputation that preceded him, one dotted with whispers of corruption and shadowy dealings. He was not just a name, but a pivot point in the unraveling narrative of their father's life. There's a meetup happening tomorrow night at a bar downtown. It could be our opportunity to make contact, Lucas suggested. The adrenaline surged within Sarah. If they could just get close enough. "To do what exactly?" she replied, a knot tightening in her stomach. "Approach him? This isn't a movie, Lucas. We don't know what he's capable of. We go prepared." His voice was insistent yet calm. "We stick to the plan. When the time comes, we'll know what to ask and when to leave." That evening, Sarah reviewed her notes, flipping through scraps of information and allowing herself to visualize the confrontation. As the day stretched towards twilight, she felt an unsettling mixture of excitement and fear envelop her. This would be a pivotal moment, one that could lead to revelations she craved, but perhaps also trigger something formidable lurking in the shadows. That moment, she questioned the depths of her own resolve. Was she truly ready to confront the man who held fragments of her father's life in his hands? The clock ticked ominously, and sinking doubts nagged at her. As she lay in her bed that night, peering into the darkness, the question echoed in her mind: what if the truths they unearthed were more unsettling than they ever imagined? With the weight of their family's legacy pressing down on her, one thing became indisputable. The time had come to face the consequences of their father's choices. It would not just be a search for truth, but a confrontation with the very heart of their identities. In the dim light of her room, resolved to face the night's uncertainties, Sarah drew in a slow breath, preparing herself for the challenge ahead. The clock was ticking down, and with it came a realization that their journey was not solely about uncovering her father's past, but also about stripping away her own fears and emerging transformed. Tomorrow promised its own challenges, but one thought hung in the air like a specter. What truths would they unlock about their father, and what of themselves would remain in the aftershocks? The next day dawned with a piercing clarity, sharp enough to slice through Sarah's nerves. The bar loomed ahead, its neon lights flickering with an all-too inviting glow, attracting the type of characters they'd learned to be wary of. She and Lucas stood outside, their breaths synchronized as if they were about to dive into a pool, hesitant yet eager for what lay beneath. "Are you ready?" Lucas asked, the question barely echoing above the hum of city chaos. He cast a furtive glance at the entrance, anxiety etched into the lines of his forehead. "I don't know," Sarah admitted. Her heart thrummed in her chest, a symphony of fear and determination. "What will we even say? If he sees us coming, just stick to the questions we planned. We'll observe first, see if he asks with anyone." Lucas placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, grounding her swirling thoughts. He seemed so resolute, but cracks were starting to surface in her own composure. She had spent her life hiding behind certainty, using academia as a shield. Now the stakes had risen dramatically, and she felt exposed in a way she never had before. Inside, the bar pulsed with energy, an undercurrent of murmurings and laughter wrapped in cigarette smoke. The low-lit ambience cast shadows that danced wickedly, echoing her trepidation as they navigated through the throng. Sarah fought to keep her demeanor steady. She was no longer the reserved daughter trying to please everyone. She was the investigator seeking answers, stars aligning for her own rediscovery amid the ruins of familial deception. "Over there," Lucas said, nodding toward a booth in the corner. It was dimly lit, but she could make out the silhouette of a man who had the unmistakable air of someone accustomed to wielding power, confidence radiating from him like heat. "Marcus Laird," she whispered, almost tasting the name on her tongue. The man seemed consumed in conversation, flanked by a couple of rough-looking individuals. Each word he spoke had an edge to it, punctuated by laughter that betrayed more than camaraderie. It spoke of a network of shadows. Sarah pulled out her notebook, her mind racing. This was not what she had anticipated. She envisioned confrontations, but now uncertainty reared its head, taunting her courage like an iron strap. "How do we even approach him? I don't want to tip him off that we know anything." Lucas leaned closer, his voice almost drowned out by the ambient noise. "Let us listen for a bit. Pick up on something, maybe a name, a deal, an indication of his connection to our father. We can't reveal ourselves yet." As they listened, snippets of conversation reached their ears, obscured by the distance and the banter around them. Sarah's instincts kicked in, the investigator in her, the journalist she had buried under layers of familial expectation, was waking up. She caught references to money, debts, unease with authority figures. Suddenly the conversation took a turn. Laird's laughter faded, and a serious tone shifted. Mention of their father's name broke through the chatter like glass shattering on the floor. It sent shockwaves through Sarah, her body tightened, her breath caught. "His family, isn't he going to just sit pretty while this unfolds?" Laird stated, and her blood ran cold. They should know that the truth can be more dangerous than the lies. The tension in the booth radiated through the air, seeping into Sarah's skin. Lucas's eyes widened, and she could see fear etched onto his face. "What do we do?" he whispered, urgency lacing his words. He looked to her for guidance, but self-doubt crept back, whispering venomous thoughts into her mind. What if they were treading into territory they couldn't navigate? What if the truths revealed meant more than just family secrets? "We need to know what he knows," Sarah finally replied, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. The determination ignited within her, once more a flicker of her old self intertwining with the new. Even if it means risking confrontation. In that moment, she grasped not just her purpose but her identity. This pursuit of truth was not merely about saving their legacy, it was about owning her narrative face to face and unmasked. As they crept closer, squaring their shoulders and drawing courage from one another, Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. But deep inside, another question bubbled: would uncovering the truth bind them together or fracture their already fragile relationship? Each step they took towards Marcus Laird was another step into their own unresolved pasts. The stakes had never been higher. It wasn't merely about revealing her father's truths. It was about her own transformation and the cost that might entail. An underlying tension thrummed through the air, leading to a gripping decision. How far would she go to unearth the remnants of her father's decisions, and could she face whatever consequences that might bring? As they approached the booth, every instinct in Sarah screamed for caution. She wasn't just walking toward Marcus Laird. She was treading a line between her history and the murky waters of the present. The stakes had never felt so personal. Shadows loomed larger than life around her, and each step echoed with reminders of her past, of the woman she used to be, content to sidestep conflict. But the pursuit of truth, her truth, claimed her attention like a powerful magnet, pulling her toward the unknown. "Stay close," she instructed Lucas, her voice a mere whisper like a fragile thread. He nodded, a blend of fear and resolve mirrored in his gaze, as they tightened their grip on the purpose forming between them. When they reached the edge of the booth, they observed the dynamics, the play of power visibly spilling over in the gestures and glances exchanged among the men. Laird's expression was a study in dominance. His mouth curved in an arrogant smirk that aggravated her further. She could feel the heat rising from her core, urging her to confront the embodiment of her uncertainty, yet a nagging doubt held her back. A brief moment of indecision enveloped her. "You think we should just introduce ourselves?" Lucas asked, a hint of trepidation layered beneath his words. "No." The answer burst forth with surprising clarity. "We listen for now. We need context. If he's involved with anything related to Dad, we can't risk alerting him." Her ears perked up again, attention riveted to Laird, initiating another round of laughter that seemed forced yet conspiratorial. She squinted in concentration, mentally translating snippets of information into threads of possibility. The energy in the room swirled around them, charged with mystery as Laird leaned in with conspiratorial confidence. "Let us say I'm the key. The family doesn't understand how precarious the situation is," he intoned, voice low. "There are consequences if they push too hard." Sarah exchanged a glance with Lucas, her mind racing with implications. His family. Her heart thundered against her ribs, a rapid reminder of the bonds that tied her legacy to Laird's words. Could this be the leverage that could both shatter her illusions and rebuild her understanding of her identity? Just then Laird jabbed his finger against the table, the movement a stark visual of menace. "They have no idea how far we can go to protect our interests. Let them play their games, but truth always comes with a price." It jolted Sarah's thoughts. This wasn't merely about her father's decisions. This was a window into a world where power played against morality. It wasn't just a family issue. It was a moral labyrinth. "Lucas," she murmured, a realization dawning, the truth was not only inevitable but a weapon. "We can't let this go on. We need to confront him, but strategically." With renewed focus, Sarah peeked at their surroundings, searching for an opening, a chance for a calculated move that would give them the upper hand. She caught sight of a nearby booth filled with intoxicated patrons, a cacophony of noise threatening to wash over their next steps. "Follow my lead, but be ready," she added quietly as they shifted closer, grappling with the fleeting nature of the moment. The decision hung in the air like uncharted territory. How far could they push Laird without revealing their own knowledge? Would he see through the guise they prepared to wear? "Ladies and gentlemen," she called out suddenly, stepping into the fray. "Mind if we join in?" The booth fell silent, heads craning to appraise their intrusion. Lucas's eyes widened briefly, but he recovered quickly, matching her energy. Laird blinked, surprise flaring up, but only briefly, his demeanor swiftly morphing into inscrutable curiosity. "And who might you be?" he queried, a sly grin creeping back onto his face as uncertainty skittered through her. Sarah held tight to her resolve. She had embarked on this journey to unravel her family's tangled web, but now the stakes had morphed into something larger, her emerging identity, a chance to reclaim not only her narrative but her very essence. "Just two individuals eager to know the truth," she replied, drawing strength from the deliberate challenges history had compelled her to confront. The silence deepened, stretching into a tense awareness that began to slip away from the control of her expectations. What new revelations lay within the depths of Marcus Laird that waited just beneath the surface? And would this confrontation reveal the truths necessary for them to reclaim their lives? Or would it spark an even darker journey into unforeseen consequences? The room stilled as Sarah's bold declaration hung in the air. The familiar churning of fear and doubt threatened to spill into the moment, but she stood firm, drawing strength from every ounce of resolve she had crafted during this journey. Laird's piercing gaze studied her, and for an instant she felt exposed, the weight of her past bearing down on her shoulders. "What truth?" he asked, teasing the line between mockery and genuine inquiry, his thick voice laced with skepticism. But she was ready. This was her moment. "The truth about my father," she stated, her voice steady, fortifying her claim. "And about us. Lucas sighed, sensing the tension crackling in the air between them. As uneasy eyes scanned the bar, she felt the shift, the acknowledgement of the power dynamics in the room. They were no longer two strangers seeking answers. They were now participants in a high-stakes game where she was more than just a pawn. "What does a waitress like you want with men like us?" Laird asked, a smirk curving his lips. The atmosphere grew thicker with potential, and Sarah seized the moment. "I'm not here to play games, Laird. My father left behind a legacy I intend to understand. And any further secrets you keep will only lead to greater reckoning." With each word, her confidence swelled. The inner fire she had ignited refusing to wane even amidst the manufactured chaos. Laird leaned back, suddenly intrigued. Powerful words for someone with so little. "Tread carefully," Lucas interjected, a calmness in his voice that belied the tension that swirled around them. "It's not just our heritage at stake. We're coming to bring the truth to light, whatever that may mean for you." "You think you have the upper hand?" Laird's laughter echoed ominously, but the mood held a shift, perhaps an acknowledgement of the threat they represented. "Beneath every powerful man lies a buried story worth telling," Sarah pressed on, her voice rising slightly above the murmur of the patrons around them, catching attention. "You might know more than my father ever revealed. Secrets are heavy burdens, but they can also bring clarity." The spark of suspicion lit Laird's features as if he weighed the potential fallout. For the first time, Sarah sensed she might actually be peeling back layers of hardened truths. "Maybe you're smarter than you look," he conceded, easing into her challenge. "But what makes you think I'm going to share anything with you?" "The choice is yours, Laird," Sarah replied, her heart pounding with every calculated move she made. "You can share it here in the safety of a crowd where it might do you good, or in shadows where it will eventually consume you." She felt Lucas' eyes on her, a tacit understanding swiftly passed between them. Whatever happened next would define them. It wouldn't just peel back the past but reshape their future. Laird's demeanor shifted. "And if I refuse, then the truth will find its way out," she asserted, not flinching despite the weight of her generosity toward him. "The only shadows left will be yours." The silence stretched, and Sarah dared to hope her words had begun to crack the steel walls of Laird's defensive fortress. "All right," he relented, leaning in as if to share a private secret. "Your father, he was tangled in a web far larger than money. There were people who would kill to keep their dealings a secret." A chill raced up Sarah's spine. It was then she realized the magnitude of what she had invoked. The reckoning was no longer just about her past. It was about a dangerous present that loomed right behind her. "What does that mean for us?" she asked, urgency creeping into her tone. "What do we need to know?" "Follow the trail of debts," Laird said, each word deliberate. "But beware. There are those who will seek to silence you if they think you're getting close to uncovering the truth. Your father's legacy comes at a price, and it's time you decide how much you're willing to pay." Reality crashed in waves over her as a glance at Lucas confirmed they were in over their heads. Yet as daunting as it was, Sarah felt an exhilarating rush. She had finally begun to excavate the truth buried under years of inaction, and within her grew a burgeoning desire to break free from what had held them hostage for so long. "Tell us what we must do," Sarah urged, a spark of determination igniting within her. "We want to learn now." As Laird divulged information, the names of movers and shakers tangled in her father's life, she navigated the unraveling narrative, piecing together a familial puzzle that was no longer just about history, but about survival. As each name slipped through Laird's lips, Sarah felt her identity crystallizing and consolidating into something solid. Hours passed in a blur of conversation, revelations igniting fires of understanding between Lucas and her. Each secret extracted from Laird resonated with her desire to reclaim her legacy. The once muted echoes of her past began to transform into a chorus demanding to be heard. By the time they left the bar, the world outside felt heavier yet clearer, the streets buzzing with anticipation. They weren't just players anymore. They were defenders of their own story, authors of their new legacy, bent on confronting their father's demons. With every step taken in unity, Sarah felt the burden slowly lighten, the weight transforming into purpose. She wasn't merely fighting for an inheritance or a voice. She was embarking on a path leading to self-discovery and resolution. The depth of their journey had only begun, yet it was underlined with newfound resolve. Sarah was no longer the girl resigned to the shadows of her life. She was a force, ready to claim not just the truth but an identity molded by courage and choice. As she turned to Lucas, their eyes communicated a promise. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face it as siblings united, not bound by a father's legacy but driven by a fierce hope for their own futures. This moment marked a new chapter, one of exploration, resolution, and relentless determination. And as they strode toward uncertainty, Sarah realized that the scabs of their scars had turned into badges of honor, reflecting their journey from the darkness of their past into the light of their newfound empowerment. Now, with purpose guiding their every move, they were ready. Sarah might not know the future entirely, but she felt confident. She had something not easily taken ownership of her story, and that was a victory she could fully embrace. You need to subscribe now to witness the unfolding saga of personal transformation. This is the moment to show your support by leaving a like now to fuel the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion. Let's spread the truth.